stressors, and really being able to unidentify from your inner critic so that you can experience more freedom in your life, more happiness, life satisfaction. And so really learning how to separate ourselves from that inner critic is going to help us cultivate more self-love, more peace, instead of being like in constant battle with our minds pretty much. Okay, so thank you for being part of this community and just wanting to really just better yourself, because that's why you're here. So please stay tuned until the end, because I do have a special bonus for people that stick with me until the end. And for those of you that don't know, I know most of you guys in here, but my name is Jessica De Silva, and I'm a former mental health therapist and a current relationship recovery coach. So I pretty much just specialize in, oh wait, give me 1 second. Uh-oh. I need to add someone here. I'm so sorry, you guys. Let's see if I can. Okay, I don't know if that worked. Okay, I'm just going to continue. Yeah, so I specialize in helping men and women recover from toxic dating patterns, create more freedom in their lives, and healthy, strong relationships. And why is this? Okay. Sorry, you guys. Admit. Okay. I'm just trying to admit people that are slowly coming on here. Okay. All right, let's continue. Okay, so, shoot, hold on. I'm gonna take that off. All right. Okay, sorry about that. So if you're here, it's because you wanna learn what your inner critic actually is, why we're more inclined to be negative or pick at our flaws, how the severity of each person's inner critic varies and why, right? Like your inner critic is very different than my inner critic, so why is that? And how to begin identifying and questioning your own inner voice. But you may need some help as to how to do this. So the problem here is that most people believe everything that they think. Okay, and when we believe everything we think, we allow those automatic thoughts to govern our mind. And when we believe everything we think, we're automatically accepting that every thought is true, right? We're not questioning our thoughts, we're just having the thoughts and just believing everything we think, which then causes us to feel an array of painful emotions. And sorry, if you guys are on, if you guys can hit mute, that would be really helpful. Oh my gosh, let's see. Okay, thank you. So yeah, and then we go into thinking about how we can fix, change, or protect ourselves from what is causing us pain. We go into this cyclical pattern of controlling our lives, the lives of others, and our external circumstances, which can cause a lot of frustration and perhaps only provide us with temporary relief. We become anxious, desperate, upset, depressed, fearful, needy, or avoidant, and we lose sight of what's really important, which is the here and now. What I'm listing here are things that happen when we are in constant battle with the inner critic. Okay, so it's really, it's causing us, we have trouble with focusing on the here and now, which is where our power is, where our peace is in the moment right here. Okay, so if you're here, it's because you're pretty aware that your thoughts are causing you pain, and you may have already done some kind of therapy or researched some, self-help strategies. If you can hit mute, if everyone can just hit mute, it's on the bottom. If everyone can just hit mute, that would be really great. Thank you. Yeah, if you've already done some kind of therapy, I am so sorry. There's like participants trying to join, and I'm trying to figure this out so I can add everyone on here, and give me just 1 second. Okay, let's figure this out. We have, yes, there's 2 people wanting to come in. Okay. Oh, and I think there's a mute. Is there a pause all? No, there isn't. Hello, everybody. Okay, I'm just gonna mute. If you guys can mute yourselves when you come in, that would be great. Actually, I just figured it out. I'm going to mute all of you guys here. Okay, perfect. Welcome those, thank you for coming in. All right, so yeah, we're just talking about what happens when we believe everything we think. Okay, and so yes, if you're here, it's because you're pretty aware of all of these thoughts that are causing you pain, and you've done some kind of self-help, or you've even seen a therapist or a coach, but you still need some further help. Okay, you're still struggling with that mean inner voice inside your head. Okay, so there is a simple and practical way for you to begin making peace with your thoughts today. And that way is through reframing your inner critic, right? So it's everything in life, our reality is based off of how we perceive it, right? So if you see your inner critic as the enemy, and this, honestly, it bothers me so much when I hear people say this, or they try to teach people, that their inner critic is the enemy, because the inner critic is not the enemy. Which I'm going to teach you in a little bit. So if you're seeing the inner critic as the enemy, well, guess what? It's going to be the enemy, right? But if you see it as, something different, perhaps, maybe something that is trying to help you or protect you, well, guess what? Your reality, what you experience, is going to be much different, right? So what we perceive is what we receive. Sonia, I think that if you could hit mute, Sonia, that would be helpful.
I'm on mute now.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I could see it's because then the sounds. Let me see if I can hit mute all. I can help you guys with that as well. Thank you. Okay. Perfect. All right. Awesome, guys. So what we perceive is what we receive. So what exactly is the inner critic? So if you think about the inner critic, I'm sure you guys think, right, you always see those those representations of like the devil and the angel, right? Like that's how we perceive it. That's how kind of people teach it to us, and therefore that's what we learn. What is the inner critic? So the inner critic is that little nagging voice, or perhaps bullying voice in our head, that loves to do everything it can to demean us, to steal our joy, to minimize our accomplishments, and generally just keep us from ever feeling good about who we are and what we're doing, right? So now the intensity and the severity of this inner critic, which becomes our own self-talk. So what we think is really, our inner critic tends to be our own self-talk. We tend to talk to ourselves out loud in the same way we think, right? So it becomes our own self-talk, and that does vary between each individual, which I'll explain to you in just a little. And the nature of our self-talk is really shaped by how we were raised. I'm just letting people come in, I think. All right. Thank you so much for your patience with all of this. I need to find an easier way. Maybe people can just automatically enter without me having to admit them. Okay. Yeah, you see, guys, I'm like dealing with my own inner critic right now. Like I could be really hard on myself, but I'm just breathing and just letting everything, come as it does. Okay, perfect. So the inner critic mindset, it thinks in black or white, either or. The inner critic focuses on the problem. It doesn't recognize or celebrate progress. It uses shame, guilt, and fear to motivate, right? A lot of people, well, they're like, my inner critic helps me. But the way that their inner critic helps them can be very mean. It can be very just degrading. And there's just other more productive ways of motivating yourself that doesn't require you, being mean or like calling yourself names. There's just other ways to motivate, I promise. It's usually the voice of reason and focuses on lack, scarcity, and never enough, right? It has a very scarcity mindset. So I love what this psychologist says, Lisa Firestone. She says the critical inner voice is formed out of painful early life experiences in which we witnessed or experienced hurtful attitudes towards us or those close to us. As we grow up, we unconsciously adopt and integrate this pattern of destructive thoughts towards ourselves and others. When we fail to identify and separate from this inner critic, we allow it to impact our behavior, and shape the direction of our lives. It may sabotage our successes or our relationships, preventing us from living the lives we want to lead and becoming the people we seek to be. I thought that was really beautifully explained. So why do we have an inner critic to begin with? Because we live in a physical world with potential dangers. And because of these dangers, we humans are evolutionarily predisposed to a biological mechanism in our brains to help keep us alive. Okay, and that mechanism communicates to us in the form of the inner critic. So this is something that all humans have. If you are human, you are equipped with this little mechanism in your brain to help keep you alive, to help you make decisions in order to stay away from danger. And I'll explain this to you in just a second as well. So this isn't something that we can completely get away from. We can't. You know, the unfortunate truth is we can't get rid of the inner critic, but we could see it differently in order to see it as something that's trying to help us rather than hurt us, because really in its nature is to help you. So the inner critic's role in your life is not to harm you, but to protect you from not getting hurt. I'm sorry, but to protect you from getting hurt, not from not getting hurt. It's to protect you from getting hurt. And so you might be thinking, okay, so if I'm looking in the mirror and my inner critic is just telling me how ugly I am or how fat I am or how whatever it is, right? Whatever thought that you usually have towards yourself, how is that helping me? Like, how is that protecting me? And here's the thing, if you started to think that you were more beautiful, to think that you were more confident, to think that you were more capable, what would happen? Well, you would start taking more risks in life, right? You'd start taking more chances. And what happens if you start taking more chances and more risks? What's the potential danger there? You might get hurt, right? And the inner critic, this very primal part of you, knows this. And so it's going to keep you small. It's going to keep you in your comfort zone so that you don't get hurt. There's no threat there. There's no threat when you are small and contained. Okay, so it's not ill-intentioned. It's not ill-intentioned. It really is just trying to protect you. And our goal here is just to transcend the inner critic. Our goal here is to transcend it so that you can basically teach it that you're okay, that you can do better, that you're going to be fine. So in the past, we had a lot of external threats, right? Our threats were very external, meaning, you know, we needed that inner critic. We needed the inner critic to protect us from making decisions, right? Like here's our ancestor right here, you know, about to fight for his life. Like lots of our threats were external. Nowadays, though, in the modern world, we're more protected, we're more sheltered. We don't have these threats, right? So our inner critic, it still needs to function, right? It's still a part of your physiology, of your biology. So how is it going to function if it doesn't have the external threats? Well, it's going to go internal, right? That's why we deal so much with our emotions. That's why we're always stuck in the past. We dwell in the past, or we dwell in the future with our worries, right? Our threats are more internal now, which causes a lot of physical symptoms. It causes a lot of distress in our lives. Probably more so, I would think, than these external threats. Okay. So question for you guys. How is your inner critic keeping you safe right now from possibly catching COVID-19? So just, if you can give me an example in the chat box. And what I'm trying to do here is to help you see your inner critic as something, a mechanism, a part of you that is actually just trying to help you, right? Its goal is just to keep you safe. So what thoughts go through your head? What is your inner critic telling you to keep you safe? You know, when you go out on the streets, or when you, you know, possibly come home and you have to wash your hands after going to the mailbox or whatever it is. So what are things that your inner critic are telling you to keep you safe? Okay, and you can tap that, you can type it in the chat box if you'd like. I love how I just type it in the chat box. And also think about how it's communicating that to you. And that's the key here, is that, is your inner voice talking to you and saying, hey, Stuart, why don't you wash your hands? You want to make sure you don't get sick. Or is it saying like, don't be stupid and not wash your hands, because only you would do that and catch get sick. So like, think about how it's talking to you, right? It's communicating something to obviously help you, but how is it doing it? That's where the pain comes. That's where a lot of our pain comes. It's not the what it's saying, but how it's saying it. Okay. And I know, and also the language too. There's so many factors that come in, but we'll get to that in a second. So each person's inner critic falls on a spectrum in terms of severity, okay? And so I'm just gonna see what you guys have been saying. See, it's like so good. Here we go. I think I can see what you guys are saying here in chat. Oh, awesome. Oh, cool. I'm just reading now what you guys are saying. That's so great. So Callie, that's great. I did your dad's Devo. He's awesome. I just did a podcast with her dad last week. It's been making me feel more cautious of the surfaces I touch, almost feel a little paranoid. Right, exactly. I mean, it can make you feel paranoid for sure, but that's where we have to decipher when it's too much and how to balance that. But yeah, it's helping you, right? To build my immune system. I'm very cautious about touching anything, especially my face, right? So it's telling you like, hey, don't touch your face, don't touch this, don't touch that. But how is it telling you? Okay, and we will get to that. Also, help me finally stop biting my nails, since I know not touching your face during this time, you guys, has been so tough. It's been so hard. My inner critic has been making me feel extra cautious and a little fearful. Yeah. So we're gonna get more to this. So thank you for letting me know your thoughts on this. Okay, so each person's inner critic falls on a spectrum in terms of severity. So my inner critic is very different than your inner critic. Your inner critic, the way you think, the way you treat yourself mentally, right, is very different than your friend's inner critic or her inner critic. So it really varies. Not everyone's inner critic is the same, and it depends on certain things. So on one end of the spectrum, you had parents that were very critical, very reactive. They were dealing with their own inner critic and therefore projecting those expectations, opinions, and values onto you. And therefore, you adopted similar ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving, right? So my inner critic sounds a lot like my mom. And my mom is on here, and we've talked about this stuff. She came to my training on Thursday. But my inner critic is very similar to my mom's voice, right? It's kind of what I hear a lot of the time. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it hurts, right? But her inner critic is similar to her mother's inner critic. So can you see how that it goes down from generation to generation if we don't become aware of how we speak to ourselves, and then therefore speak to our children, and then therefore our children speak to their children? It just keeps going until we stop it and change the way we relate to ourselves, and we can relate to others, right? But if we weren't taught those tools, then it's just going to keep on going and going and going. Or on the other end of the spectrum, you had parents that were very self-aware. They knew how to regulate their emotions. They knew how to communicate in a healthy way. They showed you a lot of love, a lot of support, and therefore you learned healthier ways of treating and relating to yourself. Now, like, how amazing would it be if we just all had parents that were just so self-aware and, could just relate to us and understand us and speak to us in a loving way? Like, that would be amazing, right? But usually that's not really how it happens. So please have, compassion on yourselves and compassion on your parents, because it takes education. It really does take education, and it takes, and it takes a lot of internal work in order to change those habits and those change those ways of relating to yourself. Okay, so the ways in which we were spoken to become our own self-talk. Okay, so we'll get to that in a second as well. So now think about your current self-talk. Okay, think about your current self-talk, and you can close your eyes and think about this, or just, some of you guys may already know how you talk to yourself. If you're here, then you probably already know how you talk to yourself. Does it sound familiar? Does it sound like your mother's voice or your father's voice? Maybe an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend? Does it sound like a family member's voice, a teacher, maybe someone you knew when you were young, a friend you used to have, an authority figure? You know, these voices can come from different sources. So sometimes you might be hearing your mom's voice. Sometimes you might be hearing an ex-boyfriend's voice. Sometimes you may be hearing, you know, little Joe's voice from 3rd grade who laughed at you when you were reading out loud, you know, in front of the class. These voices stay with us, and the inner critic just mimics. What it does is it mimics those voices so that it can communicate to us. That's how we understand it. Okay, so it mimics these voices. So just try to think about, you know, who is it mimicking? Right? Like when you're going outside and you forget to wear a sweater, do you hear your mom like, put on a sweater or else you're gonna get cold? You know, like whose voice are you hearing? So, and try to identify where you may have adopted some of these ways of speaking and relating to yourself. And you guys, to take it even a step further, think about the expectations you have for yourself, your values, your beliefs, the way you discipline yourself and others. You know, is that coming from you? Or is that something is that something you truly resonate with? Or is that something you just learned? Right? So your beliefs, your values, is that something that you really believe in? Or is that something that you just picked up when you were younger? You know, you might not even resonate with it, and you're living this life based off of something that you don't even really care for, that's not really helping you or bringing you any life or passion. Maybe your mom believed it, maybe your dad believed in that, but you don't. Right? So what are you, this is just important, this self-awareness is picking, you know, deciphering, like, what have you picked up, what have you adopted that, you know, perhaps we can let go of it. Right? That's empowerment. So how has this voice been impacting your life? You know, what has it prevented you from doing? What is this, you know, these things that your inner critic tells you, these voices, the dialogue you hear in your head that you heard maybe your mom talk to you in a certain way, or your dad, or whoever it was, what has it prevented you from doing? What have the expectations you've adopted caused you to feel? How have these values added significance to your life? Do you even resonate with them? Are these beliefs you have about yourself productive, or do they just cause you pain? How does the tone of the wording in your self-talk make you feel? Do you want to talk to yourself like that? Like, you have choice. You have a choice on how you talk to yourself, and it doesn't have to be cruel. It doesn't have to be mean. You can talk to yourself in a more loving way. So by doing this work, we can begin to separate ourselves from the critical inner voice. All right, and that's me with long hair right there. Just recently, my sister cut my hair during quarantine. So funny, like all my pictures are all different now. They're not relevant at all. And when we separate ourselves from the critical inner voice, well, guess what? It gives us choice. Right now we have choice, because we're not just believing every automatic thing that comes through our head. Right now we have choice. We're like, wait a second, do I want to believe that? Like, do I want to talk to myself like that? No, I don't want to. I'm going to say something nicer to myself, or I'm going to say something kinder to myself, right? So it gives us choice. And choice equals freedom. Yes, choice equals freedom. Because just as we learned a certain way of thinking, science shows us that we can unlearn those thought patterns and reprogram our mind to believe other thoughts, which can lead to better feelings and therefore lead to better experiences. Something that I didn't teach over here is the CBT triangle, cognitive behavioral therapy triangle, for those that have maybe done some CBT in therapy. Basically, it just says that You know, our thoughts impact our feelings, right? A thought you have can cause you to feel a certain way, which then causes you to act a certain way. So those three components are working in your life all the time to create your patterns, to create your reality. So when you can catch your thought, catch it first before it starts to make you feel bad, before it causes you to react in a certain way, that's how you can start really creating massive changes in your life. It's just the awareness part. And honestly, you guys, this is why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I used to think that I was stuck to thinking a certain way. I was stuck to feeling a certain way. I was stuck to just having a certain reality and attracting certain people into my life. I thought that I was stuck to that way because it's what I learned, right? Like, well, if my parents are like this, then that's just the way I'm going to be. But no, right? I got my my bachelor's in psychology. Didn't really make many changes back in like earlier college days. Was in a whole other mindset still. But, you know, later in my 20s, I got my master's in marriage and family therapy when I was really ready to just, you know, change my life. I wanted to learn like real practical tools to help myself just change my habits, to change my thinking so that I could have a healthy relationship, so that I could have a healthy lifestyle. Like, I craved having a healthy lifestyle because I thought, you know, why is it that some people are like, you know, so stable, emotionally stable and grounded, and, you know, why can't I have that? Why do I feel so unstable and all over the place? And I knew that it wasn't like they weren't different than me, right? They knew something. They had certain habits that were different than mine. And so if I could learn them, if I can learn tools to change the way I think, feel, and behave, well, then my experience changes as well. And it really has. Like, my life has changed a lot. And I would not be here teaching you guys. Like, my inner critic would be like, Jessica, you could never do that, blah, blah, blah. Like, I just would not have the guts to do this or do what I do and coach people. And, you know, if it wasn't for, you know, implementing these tools in my life. And it works. So now some of you guys may be feeling, you know, super relieved knowing that we all have this inner voice, right? Like, we all have it. It's just that mechanism. It's part of your physiology. It's just part of being human. So if you're a human, you have this mechanism, and it's really to keep you alive. Its duty in your life is to help keep you alive. Okay? So none of us are completely free from the fear or suffering. But our goal is to transcend it, to basically teach it to, right? Like, it's okay. It's okay if I take this chance. It's okay if I take this risk. I'm not going to get hurt. So really what I'm trying to, the goal here is just to help you reframe it so that you don't see it as the enemy, and so that you can befriend it, so that, you know, when you, instead of becoming, you know, enemies, being enemies is not going to help. But when you can befriend something, that's when you guys can work together to improve your life, right? Like, that's where change can happen. Or you might be thinking, shit, so you're saying I'm stuck with this thing, right? Because we can't get rid of it. So whichever side that you're on right now, whether you're relieved or you're disappointed of the very fact that you can't completely get rid of the critical inner voice, as it is an essential part of being human, there are ways of softening the severity of that voice so that you can experience more inner peace, more joy, more love, and more kindness towards yourself. And something really cool that I have been working on, you guys, for the last few months is my online course. It's called Reframe the Inner Critic. And I'm just really excited to be sharing this with you guys. And Reframe the Inner Critic it's an online course that not only helps you see the inner critic from a whole new perspective, but will also equip you with simple and practical, scientifically proven methods. These are the methods that I used in my own life, and that I help with my one-on-one coaching clients as well. That will help you to, these, you know, basically these methods that you can apply into your daily life to help you change the way you think, feel, and behave, which really creates a whole new reality, something completely different that you get to experience. And there's 5 modules. So modules are basically just video presentations like this one where you hear me and you can see me. That will be released to you each week. So 1 module per week. And the reason why I do this, that I spread it out, is because like this is a lot of information. So if you were to listen to all these videos, it would just fly out the window. It'd be too much. So you get 1 module a week to really process the information and to also practice the techniques. And they're not hard techniques. They're very simple techniques, but it's nice when you have some time to be able to implement them. Okay, and here's what's inside the course. So module 1, you'll get a deeper understanding of what the inner critic is, how it impacts your life, and you'll begin to separate yourself from it through using mindfulness strategies. All right, mindfulness is a beautiful therapeutic approach, comes from the Buddhist philosophy, and it's all about being in the present moment, but it's also been very life-changing for me as well. Module 2, you will begin to understand how your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all interconnected, creating the reality you're currently experiencing. So you will learn how to implement cognitive behavioral therapy strategies into your own life in order to begin changing that inner voice. So it's that CBT technique that I was telling about you earlier. It's amazing. It's widely used in therapy. And so I'm just going to break it down for you guys in this course, so you guys can just implement it into your own daily life. In week 3, excuse me, you will learn how to effectively interrupt your inner critic by using mindful self-compassion. Mindful self-compassion is a proven method and powerful tool that promotes emotional resilience and self-love. So this is where the self-love component comes in. And module 4, you'll learn how to reparent yourself. Reparenting is the process whereby an adult recognizes the poor example set for them as a child and breaks the patterns that have conceivably been repeating for generations. So this is what I was talking about, those how your self-talk really does go from generation to generation. Reparenting is a great way to change that. And this is primarily evident in how you treat and speak to yourself. In module 5, you will learn how to cultivate self-acceptance and self-love. So are you ready to change the trajectory of your life, you guys, and ditch those old ways of thinking so that you can learn a new way of relating to yourself and to what could be the most fulfilling life, right? When we can just get on board with our inner critic instead of fighting it, we can really create some amazing changes. Right? It's just helping it work for you as opposed to it being against you. And also something special for you guys. You have to drink some water. For the first 5 people that sign up, I'm giving a $200 discount. So the list price for Reframe Your Inner Critic is $497 and you will get it for $297. Okay, so this is for the first 5 people that sign up. And I'm also doing a payment plan for those that just, so it's not so expensive. You don't have to pay in full. And it's 4 weekly payments of $75. So you can get the course right now just for a $75 payment. And there's also amazing bonuses that I want to share with you guys. You get a guided meditation, guided higher self visualization. I'm basically recording these guided NLP techniques. I usually charge $125 a session for this, but I'm going to record it so that you guys will have this. Like, you can come back to these techniques at any time. So there's one for releasing limiting beliefs and one to release negative emotions that are really just kind of keeping us stuck and not allowing us to move on. And you also have lifetime access to all of the course material. So you can come back to it at any time if you need to refresh your memory. And most importantly, you guys get special access to 4 live group coaching sessions with me to discuss the topics further. You get coaching, you can ask any questions, and we're just gonna practice the strategies so you can become basically your own self-healers. Like, this is what I did with myself. I just learned these techniques and learned how to heal myself, and now I get to share, you know, this amazingness with other people. So you guys are gonna become your own self-healers, which is awesome. Okay, so basically you're gonna go from the inner critic mindset to an inner guidance mindset. So you're gonna, by the end of the course, just recognize, you know, the complexity, the gray area. Not everything is going to be so black and white. You're going to focus on solutions rather than problems. You're going to start celebrating, you know, progress and just small victories. You're going to use desire, love, and compassion to motivate rather than, you know, being mean or just other unproductive ways of motivating yourself. You're going to operate from the voice of passion, right? Instead of, I should do this, I want to do this, right? Things that light you up. And you're going to focus on gratitude, what is possible and what feels good. All right, so all of this is basically $665 value. You only get for $297 for the first 5 people that sign up. And these are some key dates over here. So the module dates are going to be released on these dates up here. And then group coaching calls are going to be 60 minutes. Basically, we're going to get on Zoom like this, and it's just talking about the course, and you guys can ask any questions, obviously get coaching, and those are the dates there. And also, they're going to be recorded, so if you can't make it to the group coaching call, we're going to record it. So you'll have that recording as well, and you can pre-submit questions. So yeah, guys, just to claim your spot, you can visit my website. I'm also going to send you a follow-up email right after this with the link to sign up. So you'll get that. Yeah, and also stay tuned because I will send you a gift just for joining me and staying until the very end. So I really, really appreciate you guys being here. Now let me see. Do you guys have any questions? If you have any questions, please share it